Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I want to show you how to solo Castle Panic, a cooperative and solo tower defense game in which you're defending your castle from all kinds of monsters that want to destroy it. I don't expect this video to be overly long because Castle Panic is a very straightforward game, and actually it has one of the most straightforward and clearly written rule books that I've seen in a long time. But to set it up, you put out this lovely board that is divided into 6 different arcs, and also you have 2 little arcs of each color. So they're numbered 1 through 6, and these little areas are gonna affect our monster placement. They're gonna affect the cards that we can play based on color and on region. So forest, archer, knight, and swordsman. Those distinctions will matter in the game. So you put out the board, you set up your castle, and your castle is gonna be 6 of these towers surrounded by 6 walls, 1 per section of the board. You have 1 die, which is going to be used to place monsters. You have 1 deck of cards from which we're going to be drawing to figure out what we're going to do. And then initial setup will involve placing a few monsters for us to start attacking right away as the game begins. Most of your monsters are going to start in this bag that you're going to draw from throughout the game, but you're going to start with 3 goblins, 2 orcs, and 1 troll, and they each go in the archer space of 1 of these areas. So the reason they go in the archer space is most monsters actually start in the forest, but you can't attack anything that's in the forest. So these first monsters are going to start in a place where you can get them. You can actually place the monsters in whichever area you want, as long as it's 1 per area. And as you can see, the monsters are these kind of cool guitar pick shaped things that help you track HP. So the troll is the most obvious version of that because he has a whopping 3 health. So when you first place him, the 3 is going to be facing your castle. But when you hurt him, you switch it to 2, then to 1, and then you remove him from the board when you defeat him once and for all. But for now, he's at full health, and he's going to be coming right at us. The next thing we're going to do is draw 6 cards. In a solo game, you have a 6-card hand. So we'll draw 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, an archer, good, 5, and 6. So these are the 6 cards that we have to deal with, and we have a choice before we actually start to play them. So as you can see, each of these cards is going to do something different. So a green archer is able to hit a monster in a green archer space, whereas an any color archer can shoot a monster in a space of any color. Meanwhile, we also had an any color knight and an any color swordsman. So those can only hit in the knight ring for the knight and the swordsman ring for the swordsman. Later, we're going to draw color limited ones like a red swordsman who can only hit in the red swordsman area, or a blue knight who can only hit in a blue knight area. So the cards that you have determine the damage that you're able to do to monsters who are coming your way. So obviously this is a game that involves cards, which means it's also a game that involves luck. So you're gonna have to make some decisions as you go about which cards you're gonna keep and which cards you're going to discard. So it's different in the multiplayer game, but in the solo game, I have the option of discarding up to 2 cards per turn and then drawing 2 new ones off of the deck. So if I have cards that I don't really see myself using in the immediate future and I'd like some more firepower now, I can discard them in hopes of getting something better. Now, I particularly like these any color cards, so I'm not gonna wanna discard all my cards this time. I'm just gonna just discard this green swordsman. It's gonna be a couple turns before I can do anything with him, and he's just a green swordsman. So we're gonna discard him and draw another card. So this time we got a fortify wall, which is again, not that exciting, but we can fortify one of our walls when things start to look a little dicey. So we'll see if we wanna do something with it. So once we've drawn our hand, discarded our cards, the next step is to play cards. So I can play as many cards from my hand as I want, and we'll just see what I can do with them. So definitely the first thing I'm gonna do is play this green archer. So I can either use him to take some health off of this troll, or I can go ahead and knock out this goblin completely. So it's up to me to decide what it is I want to do. So I think, actually before I play this archer, I'm gonna see what my full set of options is. I'm gonna play this draw 2 cards card, and it's gonna let me discard this to draw 2 more cards off of the deck. So Brick isn't particularly exciting, but I like my hero because he can do some hitting. So this is a red hero, which means I can hit 1 monster in the Archer, Knight, or Swordsman ring of the red arc, which means that I can just go ahead and use him to injure or, you know, in the Goblin's case, kill guys over here. So the hero is definitely something I'm going to use. The Archer is something I'm going to use. I'm going to hold on to these for later. And I'm going to go ahead and want to play that any color Archer. So those are the 3 cards I know I'm going to use this turn, and I have to decide how I'm going to do damage, because I can try to knock out these goblins and make some quick work of them, or I can work on reducing the health of scarier enemies before they reach my castle. So I think what I'm going to do is sort of a hybrid thing. I'm going to play my green Archer and my any color Archer to take this troll down by 2 health, so that there's only 1 health left on him, because trolls are pretty scary and they're strong and I don't like them very much. Then I'm going to use my hero to just knock out this goblin, so that way I've gotten rid of 1 enemy and weakened another one. These cards all go in the discard. Then we're going to go to the next step of our turn, which is move monsters. And that means that every single monster on the board is going to advance 1 space. So your monsters will move towards you every turn. So now they've gone from the Archer ring into the Knight ring, and the cards that I'm interested in are suddenly going to be pretty different. And of course we can't just stop there. We'll have to do the last thing in our round, which is draw 2 new monsters. So you reach into the bag, and one at a time you pull out some new tokens. So we're going to pull out, oh god, draw 4 monster tokens? That's terrible. So my first monster of the turn said draw 4 monster tokens. So we'll draw 1. Oh, great, so I got another troll. And in order to place him, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll a die. And the number that matches him is the number on the die is he's gonna go to the number that matches on the board. So 5, troll goes to the 5 forest. Monsters normally start in the forest except on the first turn. Ah, we got a giant boulder. So giant boulders can be great, as you might be about to see. We'll see, depending on the die roll that we get. So we're gonna roll this die. 3. So it's not as helpful as it could be, but this boulder is gonna roll into this goblin, as you will soon see. So the giant boulder token symbolizes monsters rolling boulders from the forest at your castle to try to knock things down. So it will go all the way until it hits a wall, a tower, or a fortify token. So it's gonna take out this wall, sadly. But the good news is that while it was doing that, it squashed this goblin. So the boulder actually killed the goblin that had been coming towards my castle. So that was token number 2 of draw 4 monster tokens. Now we'll draw a 3rd token and see what we get. Uh-oh. So now, this time, we got a special boss called the Goblin King. So if they're not just called an orc, a goblin, or a troll, they have a special name, that means that they have a special effect when they hit the board. So let's go ahead and roll and see where he goes. So he's gonna go to 3. He's gonna come into the forest at 3, but we need to look at what his special effect is. So fortunately, those are all actually written along the sides of the board, which is really, really helpful. So we know that for the Goblin King, you roll the die, you place the Goblin King in the forest, then draw and resolve 3 more monster tokens. So this was the 3rd of a draw 4. So I have to draw 3, draw the 4th one, and then draw another monster token from the bag. So this is basically the worst first turn ever for a game that I'm trying to win, but it's actually kind of awesome for showing you guys stuff because it shows you special effects. So this was the 3rd token of this draw 4 monster tokens token. So we're still working on that. But first we're gonna draw 3 monster tokens for the Goblin King. Oh my lord. So, first token is just an orc. We'll roll a die. He goes on 4 into the forest. Token number 2 for the Goblin King. An orc. he's gonna go on 3 and come back out here and hang out with the Goblin King. So they're both on 3, and they're gonna move together towards the castle. And then the third token says another orc. So he'll go on 2. So that was the 3 tokens for the Goblin King. We still have 1 more for draw 4 monster tokens. So let's go ahead and pull it. So it's another giant boulder. Oh my, okay. So let's see what this giant boulder is gonna hit, and let's roll. So this time we rolled a 1. So the giant boulder is gonna come through here, take this orc out, and take another wall from me. That was brutal. And this giant boulder is discarded. So that was all of the tokens for this and for the Goblin King. So that's all done. And now I need to draw 1 more token out of the bag for the second token, because every turn you draw 2 new monsters. Yeah. So just a goblin, at least there's that. We'll roll, he goes in 4. So that was a pretty brutal turn. I guess the good news is that the game is over when the bag is empty. But yeah, I don't think we're actually gonna play that far this time, but as you can see, I have quite a situation on my hands that I'm gonna have to work with. So then, once you've done all of that, the turn sequence starts up again. So I have 4 cards in my hand, but I can have 6. So I'm gonna draw up. Oh, that's from an expansion, sorry. I'm gonna draw up. So now I've drawn a green knight, a blue swordsman. I have this fortify wall, which is kind of cool. And I have a brick that I don't really want, an any color swordsman and an any color knight. So I'm gonna play through 1 more turn just to kind of show you how it all works. So now I have the option to discard cards before I start to play them. Oh man, I'd really like to rebuild a wall, but I'm gonna go ahead and ditch the brick and the swordsman for 2 more cards and hope that I get something better. So I got another swordsman, and a brick. Okay, great. So I'm gonna play as many cards out of my hand as I can. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and fortify a wall. So that means that I get to pick up a fortification token, which is one of these. And I'm gonna go ahead and fortify this wall because this is looking pretty rough over here. And I don't want to have a whole lot of trouble. Actually, you know what, not even that one. That troll's gonna be done soon. I'm gonna fortify over here because I have a full strength troll and a full strength orc coming towards this wall. And I would prefer not to have a disaster. So now I have a green knight, which I'm gonna play to get rid of that troll that I weakened last turn. I also have an any color knight, and I'm gonna go ahead and play him on this orc to weaken him. And then I only have swordsmen left, so they'll be guys that I use in the next turn. So we are gonna go ahead and get rid of those cards. That was my discard and then play. So now we'll move the monsters again, so everybody moves on in. Hey guys, come over for dinner, it's gonna be great. And then we draw 2 more monster tokens from the bag because it never ends. So this time it's a troll who will go here. And another troll, oh yay, who will go here. So as you can see, this is one of those games where maybe you get good draws from the bag, or maybe things get out of hand pretty quickly. So we're not gonna do a full playthrough in the interest of time, but I wanted you to see how the general turn structure works. It's very organized. So now that I've drawn those 2 new monsters, I would draw my hand back up and just start the cycle again. It moves very quickly and efficiently. But you may want to know, what happens if monsters hit the walls? So the first thing that happens if a monster hits the wall of your castle is that it takes 1 HP of damage. So basically, once this orc hits my wall, or actually in this case, my fortification, the fortification would be removed, but the orc would lose 1 HP and die. The same thing would happen if this goblin were to hit this wall. The goblin would disappear, but the wall would disappear too. Or let's say things have gotten pretty advanced and this troll has managed to approach my wall with a full 3 health points. The first thing that would happen is he would hit my wall and he would go down to 2. But then he would move in and he'd hit my tower and you move down to 1. And the problem is that once this happens, there are only a couple of cards in the deck that actually attack monsters that are inside of your castle area. So they're easy to attack out here if you have the right cards. But inside, there are only a couple of cards that can do anything about a monster that's breached your walls. So once he's in there, and he's gonna keep crashing your towers until he dies or you run out. And if you run out of towers, you lose the game. So basically on the next turn, this monster would move 1 spot clockwise, lose his final health, but also take out another tower during his path of carnage. So basically you have to be really careful about not letting monsters actually breach your castle, because if you do, it is very, very unpleasant. It is possible to rebuild your walls if you get a combination of brick and mortar cards to play. So you can play 2 of those to build a new wall. And as you notice, it's also possible to get cards that are fortification cards. Once a card's gone by, you have to wait to finish this deck out to reshuffle and then hope that you pull it again. So one of the other things about the game is being careful about, if you know that there are very few cards of a certain kind in the deck, you need to be careful about when you play them, because you'll have to play through the whole rest of the deck before you can reshuffle and hope to see it again. But yeah, I mean, Castle Panic is a really straightforward, simple, and very enjoyable game, where if your towers all go down, you lose. If you get rid of all the monsters before they can achieve that, you win and they lose. This is actually a game that my students have loved for a really long time, and it is a great game either to start out with solo on your own or to play co-op with people that you're introducing to board gaming. There are expansions, one of which we're about to talk about, that can really spice up the game and give it some extra challenge. But this base game is just a wonderful introductory level solo game or co-op game for people who either haven't played a lot of board games or want to try a relaxing tower defense. In my opinion, for experienced gamers, Castle Panic is so much better with the Wizard's Tower expansion. Once I got it, I stopped playing without it. And the great thing is it's one of those expansions that fits really seamlessly in with the game as it was originally designed. So basically you remove some monster tokens from the game. You add several new ones to your draw bag. So new kinds of monsters, including some really cool boss monsters that are very difficult to fight. And then you also set up your castle the same way, except that one tower is a wizard's tower. You get to choose which one, but as long as that tower is safe and protected, you get access to the wizard card deck, which gives you all kinds of sweet magical powers that let you take out monsters even more powerfully than before. So the way that that would work is that when you play Castle Panic with the Wizard's Tower expansion, you still draw your cards as normal. So I'd still draw 6 cards, but when it was time for me to discard, I could discard 2 cards and then take cards either from this normal castle deck or from the wizard card deck, or some combination thereof. So I could draw 1 castle card and 1 wizard card, 2 wizard cards, whatever I wanted to do. But you can't get them by normal drawing up. You can get them by discarding cards. So a lot of the strategy of the game is discarding so that you can get some pretty cool wizard cards into your hand. The other awesome thing about the Wizard's Tower expansion is that it adds fire. Yes, in this expansion you can set things on fire, which I find kind of exciting. So your own building can get set on fire. So if there are enough flame tokens added to your walls or to your towers, they will eventually burn down. And they also do less damage or no damage to monsters when they run into them because the fire has already weakened the structure. However, it's also possible to set monsters on fire, which is cool because monsters are on fire, and it also diminishes their health. So the fire works both ways. And of course, to get some fire, you have a wizard who can send it flying out from his wizard tower at your enemies, which is really awesome. There are also a couple of other interesting expansions for Castle Panic, one of which is the Dark Titan, which I have but have not yet played, and the other is, I think it's called Engines of War. It's like a siege expansion. So this is one of those games that starts out really simple, but it has expansions that keep it growing in difficulty and that let the game kind of grow with you for a little bit. I think that the Wizard's Tower expansion makes this game like a really complete and wonderful game. And then if you want additional difficulty, then I think I need to try those other expansions to kind of see if I can spice up my own Castle Panic game enough. I've had this game for a long time, And it is a game that I don't always play as much anymore, but I still pull it off the shelf as kind of a comfort game if I want to play something relaxing and fun. And it's also one that I really like to show to new gamers. So I recommend Castle Panic, especially if you are looking to dip your toe into solo gaming, or if you want something that you can play by yourself and with your family. Happy gaming.